Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to be taking a look at using u-pol Raptor on the interior and the front on this bay window camper van. We're going to be doing the front section in here, the backs of the seats, and also the rear section in the back. Now, as a little bit extra, we've got Dan here today to join me from u-pol. He's going to be helping us run through all the settings that we need and also all the application and some little tips and tricks that he's picked up along the way so we can get a better view to show you guys just how good of a product this is. So as I said in the intro, we've got Dan here today from u-pol. He's going to be showing us through all the different aspects of the Raptor system, from everything from mixing right the way through a few tips and tricks, the application side, and obviously at the end, as always, we'll take a good look through of the final product so you guys can see what the product does and how good it is as well.
Alright Tony, all we're going to do first of all, we're just going to go through some of the equipment and the product that we're using today to apply the Raptor to this camper van. So what we're going to be using, a tintable Raptor, and we're also going to be using one of our vari nozzle Rappler application guns, and that's pretty much it really. That's the obviously a compressor and all the rest of it, but as far as materials and equipment, specialist equipment, that's all we're going to need. So what we'll do now, we'll move on shortly to how we're going to mix this Raptor, and then we'll look at getting it applied to the vehicle and the application techniques involved to do that. Alright Tony, what we're going to do now, we're going to get this Raptor mixed up. So the way that we'll do it is we'll mix the Raptor and the hardener together first, which is a 3-to-1 mix, and then we'll put some thinners in as we require it. And what we'll also do, because it's tintable, and we're going to add the direct gloss, we'll also mix the direct gloss separately first in a mixing cup with its hardener, and then what we'll do, we'll add the two together so you get a more consistent mix rather than trying to mix it all together in the bottle as advised. What we've done, we've shaken this up previously for probably about 2 to 3 minutes, so we get a real good make sure it's shaped up properly. So what we'll do, we'll start mixing this in now.
So what Dan is doing now is he's just going to decant the Raptor into some pots so that he can mix it up with the 2K gloss a lot more evenly, because one thing that I didn't want to do was try and mix this all into the one pot, shake it up and not have an even distribution of the colour throughout the whole mix and have any colour differences when we sprayed it onto the van. Now we've got the Raptor mixed with the hardener in these two pots, and we've got our 2K gloss mixed with the hardener again, and then currently there's no thinners in these, so what we're going to do is we're going to add half of the paint mixture into each Raptor. We're going to get them stirred up now, and then we can decant those, and everything's going to be nicely mixed together and nice and even throughout the whole mix. So all you actually need to add to the Raptor, so we've got 2 lots of Raptor already mixed up with the hardener, is all you need to actually add to these is 10% colour. So to put that into perspective, for a full bottle of Raptor, all we need to do is add 100ml of pre-mixed direct gloss, which we then added 10% 2K thinners to it. And the 10% thinners that we added to it was of the whole mix, so the whole 1.1 litres, we added 110ml to the mix.
Alright Tony, so what we've done now, we've mixed all the product up, we've put it all together in the bottle, we've added our 10% thinners because that's what we've opted for on this finish. What we're also doing is we're using a vari nozzle gun. So what we're going to do on this finish, just to see where we're at with it and we're happy, we're going to turn it out 3 turns the nozzle and then lock it. We might, what the best way to do that when you first get one of these is just put a little notch on the top of your nozzle, and then you can see how many turns you're turning it in and or out, because otherwise you'll just probably lose track. So that's what we're going for now. Everything's mixed up, 3 turns out, sorry. I'm probably going to put it out about 3 to 4 bar, and then just see whether we're happy with that, and then if we're happy with it, we'll carry on. So
Dan brought along with him his little test cards and little colour swatches that he's brought. So these have all been done with the tintable form of Raptor that we're using today. Now, the finer, kind of rougher peel on these ones has been done with only like 2 turns out on the actual nozzle. And by turns out, what it means is the same as we'd set up a spray gun. It'd be all the way in and then bring the nozzle back out 2 turns. And the heavier, smoother peels like we've got on the other end of the spectrum here, then they're going to be even further out. So if you wanted a really fine kind of rough texture, then you'd be, you know, 2-3 turns out. If you want a real heavy but smooth peel in effect, then you'd be coming a lot further out towards like 7 or 8 turns out. So after doing a little bit of testing on the wall, I think we settled for around about 4 turns out, which was kind of like middle ground. It wasn't too smooth, but it wasn't too fine. So it'd give us enough texture that we could cover up any pitting in the metal, but also give us quite a nice flow out on the Raptor. Now, after doing some testing on the paper on the wall, I jumped straight in to have a go with the Raptor, because it's something that I've never used before and I've always wanted to try. So when Dan at u-pol reached out to me, and I had this job lined up for Raptor as well, because the customer specifically wanted Raptor in the front because it is such a hard wearing material and such a hard wearing finish. And to put it into perspective, if we did this in, say, 2K gloss, the Raptor that we're putting down here is 10 times stronger than 2K gloss. So this is going to be a really hard wearing sort of coating to put on the interior, especially in the front of the van, where some of it will be left exposed and feet will go on it. So having something really tough and hard wearing, but also in the same colour that the van's going to be painted in, is obviously an absolutely ideal finish. Now, I found that if you took your time and you kept a nice overlap, and we think we ran this at around about 3 to 3.5 bar, which I know sounds like a lot, but you do spray this from quite a distance. It's no good getting up close with it. You do want to keep this nice sort of distance. It flows out nicely and it all goes down quite well. So you can see it, I'm literally spraying from one seat to another, and it's all going down really nice and smooth, and it's quite effortless to do. Now, we did pay particular attention on this one to try and get nice even coverage, because we want, obviously, when you look at a big flat floor like this, if you've not quite got even coverage, then it's not going to look great when the job's finished. You don't want sort of light areas or, you know, sort of dry areas and wet areas. You want to try and get everything as even as possible. Now, as far as the actual prep for this goes, ideally, as far as the spec sheet goes, you do want to be putting this over primer. So the night before, when I finished all the prep on the interior on this van, I did give this a big coat of primer right before I left late on, so that we could basically use it as like a wet on wet surface first thing the next morning to go straight back over with the Raptor. So it's got a nice surface to key to, and obviously we've got a nice even colour and no exposed paint edges, because obviously with it having paint and thinners in there, I wouldn't like to think that it wouldn't react to a bare edge. It does dry quite quickly, so I wouldn't think it would react to like a dry paint edge where something's been burnt through. But on an interior like this, and our whole purpose of doing this interior was to try and make it as neat as possible for the customer, because the interior on this was extremely rough when we got it. So just make that little quick extra stage of putting a nice coat of, you know, 2K primer over this the night before. I was more than happy to do that for the outcome that we ended up with. It was really nice to apply, really nice to put down on this complete job. So for the whole interior here, the seat backs, the bulkhead, and in the back of the van as well, we did the whole thing in 2 full really nice wet coats. We went over it with a second coat to make sure we had really nice coverage, and we used 3 tins of the Raptor. So as far as I was concerned, compared to how we've done a few of these in the past when people have asked for them stone chipped, I would say that we ended up with using probably a little bit less of the Raptor than we'd use normally with stone chip. Obviously we don't have to direct gloss over the top of it because it's already got the colour in it, so that saves a lot of time. And having that sort of extra hard wearing durable finish, it was really nice actually, and really easy to get an even smooth finish across the whole van. So especially like this floor here, I'm just going around the edges first, and then I'm just doing sort of like a 50% overlap really with each stroke, just to try and keep a nice even wet finish as I'm going across, and just try and do my best to keep that wet finish moving across the van as I'm going. It was a lot easier to get a consistent finish than something like stone chip would be over an area like this. It sprays 10 times better than stone chip as well, especially out of one of these u-pol varied nozzle guns that is specifically designed for raptor application. This varied nozzle gun is extremely good. It's also just like a spray gun, you can fully strip this gun down and soak it. So unlike your standard stone chip gun where you can only take really the nozzle and the tube off, the whole nozzle and top end assembly of this comes apart, strips down. You can put it in your soak tank, clean it all through, and then rebuild it all just like you would a proper spray gun. So if you are looking at doing some raptor work, rather than just going out and getting like your cheap Schultz gun, personally, from my experience now, I would highly recommend that you pick yourself one of these u-pol raptor applicator guns up. They are extremely good, and because it's again variable, you can set your finish, you can set the flow on the raptor just like you would a spray gun. So it's absolutely ideal for putting a product like this down, and the shots of this at the end, obviously, they don't really do it justice. To be honest with you, it really does look absolutely brilliant when it's finished. Now, we put this through like a 30-minute bake at the end. It does take a couple of days to fully reach its full hardness level, which you do find with some products like this, which is no issue. Obviously, this is a van that we've got in for a restoration, so leaving an interior a couple of days to fully harden off is not a problem at all. Now, for the second coat, I'm just trying to make sure that I am being extremely careful to get all the edges of like all the sort of indents and all the grooves in the panels, making sure like around that round cone bit at the edge, I'm getting all the edges around there. And we gave this a second coat just to make 100% sure that we had full coverage absolutely everywhere, because it's not like paint. It's not like you can just go back and touch a bit up, because you will end up with a bit of a dry edge in it, and obviously with it being a textured finish, we can't go back and just polish the in like we would with paint. So this second coat for me was just a better be safe than sorry coat. I wanted to make sure that this was nice and even all the way, and that we hadn't missed any areas for coverage. So if it meant that we used a little bit more raptor than we'd first thought we would, then I was quite fine with that. I just wanted to make sure that we had full coverage, and this looked the best that we could possibly get it for the customer. This is not a concourse restoration on this van. This is just trying to make this van look as nice as we possibly can for the budget that the customer has got, and just try and tidy it up for him and make it look nice, so that when he's finished it, you know, he can get a couple of weeks in the summer with it, hopefully. Finally get the chance to take the kids maybe to the beach in it, or whatever his plans are for the van before he sells it or moves it on, whatever his choice is in the future. So when Dan at u-pol reached out to me about doing a video on the Raptor, and it was something that I was looking to do anyway, obviously on this van, so I probably would have filmed this anyway, but because I've got sort of a tight budget on this van because of the circumstances with this van, it gave me an opportunity that with u-pol offering to help us out with the product for this van, and also do some filming work with us so that we can show you guys this product. It also gives me a little bit of an opportunity to save a few quid on the materials on this van, that then I can put a little bit more time or a little bit more money into materials elsewhere on the van to make it a little bit of a nicer job for the customer when the van is finished. Because although we've got a tight budget on this van, I find it hard to sort of not always put my best into a job. So we're trying to do the best we can with the budget that we've got. So when I got offered the opportunity to do this video and u-pol offered to supply the materials for it, this gives me an opportunity to save a little bit on the materials, and then that's a little bit more that I can spend elsewhere on the van for the customer. So guys, that is now all the bed liner put down. As you can see, it's made a real nice finish to this now. So there's a slight texture, but not too much. and it really has tidied up what was quite a rough looking interior. Now I know some guys would say, well, it'd look a lot better just in paint than obviously having the Raptor finish, but the interior on this was not the best at all. It was really rough, so that using like the Raptor instead of just painting the whole thing, if we'd have painted it, there'd have been so many hours of bodywork that would have had to go into all the tiny little grooves and all the tiny little gaps. There'd just been like such an excessive amount of bodywork to do to what is basically the front part of this van. Plus the fact that quite a bit of this shows, and the particular product that we've used, this Raptor, is 10 times harder than standard 2-pack paint. So it's going to be a really nice, hard wearing, extremely durable finish throughout the whole interior now on this van. It's looking really, really nice now compared to what it did. And I'll just pop the after shot up now in the corner. So, well, sorry, the before shot, so you can see the before shot on what it looked like. Now, as great as of a product as it is, it's not just to be used as a bed liner. There's so many options for this. If you've got the adjustable gun like we have that Dan brought us down, you can get this anything from a really fine, smooth finish like the textured plastic on a bumper, right up to a really coarse finish that you could use on like tread plates on stairs. So it's not just sort of the automotive industry that this is good for. You could use it in the automotive industry, you could use it in the marine, you could use it for agricultural, industrial, absolutely anything. And it's a really good, strong, extremely hard wearing finish. Like when this stuff's fully cured after a few days, you can literally scratch at this with a screwdriver and it will barely mark it. It's compared to say something like stone chip that most people use on an interior like this, and then you put 2K gloss over it. All you have to do is catch paint wrong with your foot, and obviously you'll damage the paint. Whereas this, once it's had a couple of days to cure, I mean this has only been in the booth for half an hour on bake, and it's already rock solid. And you can feel it. You can feel just how hard this product is. So we've gone for sort of medium texture. We didn't want too much texture, but we didn't want it smooth either, because the whole point of using it was to cover up some of the faults in obviously some of the pitting in the metal and stuff like that, and it's giving it that really nice, clean, fresh look throughout the whole interior, in my opinion. It was a nice product to use. And I have to say a massive thanks to u-pol for coming out and spending the day with us, doing the job, demonstrating the product to us, and also giving us some hints and tips for application, and just generally taking the time to spend the time with ourselves so that we can show you guys this product in a little bit more detail. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's something that we probably will do some more video work with in the future, because obviously this is the tintable version that we've used today, and I have sort of had a look at some of the other versions that they've got, and so we'll probably take a look at say like the black and a few of the other versions that they've got to see what they're like, and see what they're like application wise and how they come out, and maybe do a little bit of a video on the different pressures and the different textures and finishes that you can get with this. Because for stuff like, if you want like an anti-slip coating, there's an anti-slip additive which is almost like sand that you can add to this to give it a real textured anti-slip finish and all sorts. So I hope you have enjoyed this video guys, and I'll see you again soon in the next one. Bye for now.